But meanwhile, as promised, we are here in the studio with two guys that have one of the most unique ministries that I've ever come across, and that's Skateboarders for Jesus. I know that's not the name of it, but Brad Jackson and Kyle Swartz are here to talk to us about a unique ministry using skateboards to win people to Christ. And Brad, I'll let you start with how this all started and how you guys have joined forces to try to win souls and edify youngsters in particular with the ministry that I think is called Extol.
That's right.
Skate Jam.
Extol Skate Jam.
Tell us about Extol Skate Jam.
Yeah, so you're right, Bob. It is Skateboarders for Jesus. We just have chosen a little bit more of a catchy name, but you're at the root, you're right. We are a bunch of old skateboard guys here.
Well, you say old. You're only 43, but you are a manager with Apple.
Well, that's Brad. That's Brad.
Oh, that's Brad. Okay, yeah. I'm looking at the wrong button.
I wish I was 43.
Okay.
That would be cool.
You're older.
I'm a little older than that.
All right, well, you don't look much older.
Well,
but your line of work is not full-time ministry, is it?
Well, economically speaking, you're absolutely right.
Tell me your day job, so to speak.
In my day job, how I make money for my wife and my family is I'm a human resources director. I've been doing human resources programming and leadership for 15 years.
Can you name the company freely or not?
Sure. It's a civil engineering company that's here in Austin, Ferrovial.
Yeah, the point I'm making is both you guys are just regular guys who have regular jobs.
That's right.
But you've both kind of come together in this skateboarding ministry. How did that happen?
That's exactly right. Well, we know, at least when you go back to the Great Commission that Jesus gives us, he says, we have to go out and baptize and bring the gospel to all creation. And we know that when you hear that, St. Paul says, or John says, look, I haven't, Peter, when you go to the Romans, Paul says, I'm obligated. Like it's an obligation. So I think everyone on Extol feels an obligation to tell everybody about Jesus Christ. So how do you do that? Well, we happen to like skateboarding, and a lot of the people on the skateboard group with Extol have all had some sort of conversion experience when skateboarding.
You're kidding.
No, everybody, it's a common theme. So I had this idea.
I don't want to know. I got to stop you right there. Yeah. How did you come to Jesus through skateboarding?
Well, me personally, I don't have that common experience, but I know Brad does, and he can perhaps share.
All right, then, Brad, tell us how you came to the Lord. And I kidded with you guys. I told you beforehand you guys are going to have to talk me out of my negative attitude about skateboarding because I've had too many youngsters, usually with tattoos up and down their arms, dart out in front of me on the road when I'm trying to get home and nearly kill themselves and me with their skateboards. So I want to know how this can be used to win eternal souls. Go ahead, Brett.
Sure. Well, for myself, growing up, I grew up, in the church like a lot of people. And after graduating high school, getting out of the church, but still involved with skateboarding. And there was a point when there was a Christian skateboard company called Mana out of Pacific Northwest. They were traveling through, just kind of doing a little tour, and they needed a place to stay. So I had an apartment and an extra couch and bed, I believe. So I offered that up to them.
And you were an enthusiastic skateboarder at that time, but not so committed to the Lord.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of going my own way, trying to find myself, like a lot of people,
sure.
I guess, at that age. And but it really struck me with just how gracious and appreciative that they were, and just you could really tell a difference. It really kind of stuck with me, like, okay, wow, this is a different type of Christian than what I had a picture of. And so that just kind of planted the seeds for myself, to keep seeking that out and to investigate it more. And over time, I eventually came to that and really, just found myself, checking out different churches and things like that where I wouldn't have done that before. There was no way. I was sleeping in on Sundays.
Yeah. And when was this? When did this happen?
That was the late 90s, probably around 98. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, although I attribute it to the wrong man who's in the studio, you're the one with Apple. You're the one who has a managerial job with Apple.
Correct.
And back then, back in the late 90s, you were how old?
I was in my 20s.
Okay. Trying to find yourself both theologically, spiritually, and as well as vocationally.
Right.
How did you? Was this group the one that brought you into a deeper walk with Christ?
I would say it was, because while I was, seeking out Jesus and everything, and still, chasing my pastime, which was skateboarding and things like that, I didn't really see how to connect the two together, especially for ministry purposes. I could certainly do it for myself, but how do I keep spreading this to others? And so, just a chance encounter. Kyle and our sons go to the same school, and his son was having a birthday party, and I was taking my son over there, and I was dropping him off, but I saw that he had this ramp in his backyard, the skateboard ramp, and I was like, I got to check that out. So,
had you been skateboarding recently before you did that? Because now you're in your 40s.
Right.
Are you still skateboarding on a regular basis?
Yeah, we get out maybe a couple times a week on the weekends, or a couple times a month. It's not a full-time thing. I mean, having careers and kids and all that, it's tough, but it's still something fun that we like to do and just get out and roll around. I don't think any of us are trying to go pro.
Sure, but you saw the skateboard ramp in Kyle's yard.
Yes.
And then what happened?
Well, I got out and started talking to Kyle, and it's one of those things when you meet someone and you kind of look at each other and you want to go, "Are you a Christian?" You can just something you can tell or feel. But yeah, we got to talking about faith and everything, and come to find out, Christians, skateboarders, we have that in common. This is great. And
what was it, the same Extol group that brought you to the Lord in the first place, or is this a different ministry?
It's a different ministry.
Okay.
So Brad left the best part out. So he comes to my backyard. He says, "That's your ramp?" He said, "Can I drop in?" I said, "Sure." So when you drop in, it's a skateboard term. You stand up on the edge and you just go down.
Like an X Games
That's
thing.
right. So Brad just boom, drops in, no big deal. He's like, "Cool, that's awesome." I said to him, "All right. Hey, by the way, now that I know that you're a skater, I'm going to do this. I'm trying to put together this skate ministry called Extol Skate Jam."
So you're the founder of
That's
that.
right.
And so there was no direct connection then with the ministry that brought you to a deeper walk with Christ and Extol. When did you start Extol?
So it was really, the idea came in the early part of 2015. I was working with youth ministry at St. William Catholic Church here in Austin, and I was putting together programming for the youth. You have to make it very exciting. Mm-hmm. And I found a few of these testimonies done by professional skateboarders. And I thought, well, why don't I put some of those videos in the programming? Mm-hmm. They were very compelling. And then a couple weeks later, I thought, well, instead of just having a video of the individual, why don't I just bring him to come to visit in person and give the message directly?
Sure.
And then once that idea further developed, I thought, well, why don't I just have him come out the Saturday before and we'll do a big event? So that was really in the early part of 2015. So by the time I met Brad in May of 15, that idea had already gotten some legs. And Brad was early in with a few other people that I'd known from the community just by being in the skate parks and talking about God. And one thing leads to the next. One guy says, "You got to get this guy in," and I call him, and we're meeting in my living room in May talking about this idea. And then all of a sudden everyone shares their story about how they came to Christ through skateboarding, and it's like, we've got to be this. We got to do this. There's a reason why we're here.
That was the birth of Extol.
Extol Skate Jam, yes, sir.
And so many people you've mentioned came to the Lord through skateboarding. If it were possible to lose your salvation through skateboarding, I might be that person.
Okay.
But no, I'm kidding. You guys are beginning to persuade me that there's a virtuous dimension to this, and it looks like this ministry that you started has had more than 160 participants in various skate contests, lots of volunteers.
Yes.
You've awarded nearly 80, it says here, Christ-centered Reliance skateboards to those who are part of your ministry. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this. And by the time I'm done, I think I'm going to be totally repenting of my negativity about skateboarding. These guys, and they don't look like skateboarders. There's no tattoos that I see anywhere. These guys are over 40 each. So the whole stereotype of skateboarders is disappearing before my eyes. We'll be right back. And I'm sitting here in the studio with two great guys, Kyle Swartz and Brad Jackson, who are united in a unique ministry called Extol Skate Jam. And Brad, you're the brains behind this and the founder of it. How did you come up with that name?
No, that would actually be Kyle.
I keep calling you Brad and you Kyle. All skateboarders look alike, I guess. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. I apologize.
Okay.
Kyle, how did you come up with that name?
The name? Well, it's from it's littered throughout the, obviously, as you know, through the New and Old Testament, just extolling and giving praise to God. So I thought it would be good to get a name for this type of program in some way, shape, or form to brand it. And then the name just came to my mind. I mean, it was really one of those things. I wish there was more of an interesting story behind it, but I think it had to do something with the X in it as well, because we thought, well, it would give some good design treatment if there was an X in it. But extol, just giving praise, that's basically the end of it. It's better to say extol than to say give praise.
And what exactly does someone involved in extol do? What is the ministry? What does it look like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis for those who are involved?
Yeah, good question. It's I call it kind of an open source ministry, meaning that we have this shell. There's this big event that happens every October, and then there's little things that occur throughout the year, little meetups, little skate contests, little speaker series, things like that. And then what we do is everyone who's involved, they find their own way of ministering around them. So some people might choose to use their talent in a way to design the website or our Instagram or our YouTube page. Other people might use it to minister to people that they know directly in the community that are skateboarders in their particular circles. It's just open. Some people are thinking about using this as an opportunity to start small groups with some Bible studies. Because we have 600, 700, 800 followers right now on our social.
600, and this just locally or across the
Well,
country?
yeah, it's tough to say exactly where they're all from, but a lot of the local community here is following us, and so when we pull an event together and we announce it, we get a lot of people showing up.
And what is your website so we can get that up on our Facebook page?
It's at extolskatejam.com, E-X-T-O-L, skatejam.com, all one word. And you'll notice there we're already promoting the next event, which is October 14th.
And what is going to happen on October 14th?
Well, we're going to take over the Pflugerville Skate Park over here, and we're going to run
hopefully
from 12 to 4.
Way.
It is, absolutely. From noon to 4, we'll have a huge celebration of skate. We'll run some structured contests and some unstructured, just fun. And we'll have music, food. We'll run some events, and we'll have a great guest speaker, Brian Sumner, who himself was a skateboarder for Tony Hawk's Birdhouse team back in the early 90s. Early 2000s. So he'll be out there, and just as a good event. This is our third year running it. So we've got I think the system is down now, and it's working really well.
And between now and October, which is several months away, what other events will you guys be promoting or participating in?
So we'll be out at the different skate parks throughout the summer, doing little mini, what we call games to skate. We'll be bringing out some prizes to award. We're actually going to adopt the Brushy Creek Skate Park and keep it clean through the summer.
All right.
And officially adopt that park through the city of
See,
Cedar
this is
Park.
how out of touch I am. I didn't know there was such a thing as a Brushy Creek Skate Park.
Yep.
And there
are many of them.
Several others.
There are, yep. So we'll do that, and we're actually having a speaker series as well this summer, bringing in some different speakers who are involved in different ministries as a way of
at the skate parks.
That'll be done at my home this summer. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe next year it'll grow so much that we'll need to find another space. But we'll start with a modest scope in mind this summer.
And Brad, you are joined at the hip with Kyle on this. What is your role in helping and promoting?
Well, Kyle's done a great job of putting together a really tight core team. So there's several of us that contribute in many different ways. Whatever is needed. If somebody needs to post some announcements on Instagram, or maybe get a flyer out or print some T-shirts, what have you. Everybody brings what they can to the table as far as talents and resources and stuff like that. So it's a very kind of flexible role. Whatever's needed, whatever needs to be done, that's where we help out.
And you have 3 children and a wife, Laurel. 3 children, Max, Julia, and Braden. Are they all skateboarders?
No, my daughter is the main one that is interested in skateboarding. She's the one, and she's fearless. She's the one that gets out there and just starts pushing. And my other sons, they'll stand on a board and stuff, but she's the one that's actually, when we have the event in Pflugerville, she's the one like pushing towards the ramps and the bowls and stuff like that. And so I always have to kind of keep an eye on her because she's still learning.
And how about you, Kyle?
I have 4 children, and my wife's Tanya, and my oldest son likes to skateboard. So he's progressing every year and getting more and more comfortable with things. And then other core team members also have children as well that skateboard. It's a multi-generational sport. We can go out there and we can meet the 40-year-olds who skated when we were young, and then all of a sudden we have our children as well that we're trying to teach the sport to.
Now, is there a senior division for the 40-plussers that if, not that I'm volunteering.
We actually open it up to, I think we call it the Legends. So far, these last couple of years, we haven't had many Legends register, but
most of them are in the hospital with broken limbs. I'm a legend in my own mind, but I don't think I'd ever have the guts to do skateboarding. But I used to love doing it. There was never anything like the X Games back when I was a kid, though.
Right.
And in this ministry, do you actually have, if somebody wanted to, progress in their skateboarding as well as in their spiritual life, do you guys offer that as well?
Well, we don't offer any particular type of development of the skill itself, although there are many people in the community that support Extol that do that very thing. There's people that give lessons, and they are part of our extended core team, and that's how they help. That's the way that they can give. So we have several people give for prizes at the end of Extol, and one of them is a gentleman named Sage who gives out skate lessons, and he does a great job with the youth. Yeah.
And I'm looking at a letter, a testimony about your 2016 event. I guess that must have been in October or thereabouts.
That's right.
2016, and it reads this way: I was raised in the Baptist faith during my high school years. I never felt like I belonged to the church as a youth, so as an adult I ended up walking away from God, a decision that would affect my children's faith. Sounds a little like you, Brad. Just last year, my wife and I welcomed God into our lives, so we started to make changes to deepen our relationship with our Lord and Savior. I can remember the day like it was yesterday when we told our children we were going to start attending church. All those years of denying God for my boys came back in 3 simple words: are you crazy? For months we prayed that God would guide our children to find His loving grace. I had no idea how awesome God's plan was. Then he talks about attending the walk to Emmaus, which a lot of us are familiar with. And then he stumbled upon your skate jam.
That's right.
And so this is one of the, it says, suddenly I realized it was a skate jam, a Christian organization. I witnessed the youth being exposed to God's love and grace. I knew my prayers for my youngest son had been answered. So I told you guys to be able to persuade me that this was legit. I think I might have become a convert to Skate Jam, Extol Skate Jam. Thanks for being with me.
We appreciate it. Thanks for
coming
having
into
us.
the studio and talking about this unique ministry. Caleb, you should get into this. You're young enough to do this. I'm going to have these guys talk to you about becoming a skateboarder for Jesus.
I don't have the athletic
Doesn't matter.
capability.
Doesn't matter. We'll be right back. We're celebrating Bob Dylan's birthday and skateboarding, and in just a few minutes we'll be talking to our man in